Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Darnell Francois with us live from Trinidad and Tobago, aka TNT. He is co-founder and CEO at Draper Startup House, CARICOM, which is in Trinidad. And yeah, it's basically a chain of accommodation, co-working hubs, providing opportunity for traveling startups, digital nomads, and everyone in between. It's definitely a cool thing that I would visit if I would be in Trinidad and Tobago. He has a nice background in fintech, and we're gonna talk about that and startup houses, which I think are cool ideas, but quite challenging to execute. But quite rewarding. I think Draper did it the best in the world. This podcast is brought to you by podpar.com. If you want to start scale, be invited to podcasts like this one or find sponsors. Podcasts are amazing growth hacks. They allow you to meet cool people. They allow you to learn from them, grow your network, grow a community, and even get clients. So Podfire is my podcasting agency. If you want to start and scale a podcast and monetize it, of course, podfire.com. Darnell, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about Draper Startup House?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, first of all. Currently in the Bahamas. We're hosted a pitch competition at the Caribbean Investment Forum that's led with Caribbean Export and the European Union. So today is kind of like my down day where I could talk to you, have a cheap meal, that sort of thing. So Draper Startup House, as you know, like you correctly said, chain of co-living, co-working spaces, but it's more than that, right? Because there's a VC pipeline attached. So there's Draper Startup House Ventures, where they focus on more tech-related companies. Currently, their main focus, I'll say, is in the blockchain Web3 space, but of course, they invest in many other things, right? ShipShop from Africa, a couple cool startups, that are really making they're kind of growing all these startup stage, I would say. Some of them are in Series B, C, D, Tim Draper, is a legendary VC investor. His great-grandfather actually invented VC. A lot of people don't know that. So it's literally in his blood, right? From Hotmail to Skype, Tesla, Coinbase, Baidu. He's early in a lot of bigger companies. He has a really good intuition. And more than that, I'll say, is willing to take losses because, he doesn't only win, but the wins obviously outweigh the losses and keeping a good network and relationships. So how Draper Startup House was even founded, Vikram, the president, he had something called tribe theory, right? Hello?
Yep.
Yeah.
Huge track record indeed.
You hear me, right?
Yeah, can hear you right. Question for you. How did you get in touch with the Draper family and got their trust enough to start a startup house in TNT?
Yeah, sure. So it's twofold. Through the online community, the Draper Entrepreneurship Network, I would have started sharing some of my startups. I went through the accelerator program. I was working at EdTech at the time, and a lot of them were surprised to see the type of high-level prototype we were able to do and the direction we were willing to go from the Caribbean. And it wasn't really meant to be offensive. It just being factual. Like, you don't take tech when you think about the Caribbean, right? And yeah, and I guess my warm Caribbean personality, I kind of made a lot of friends in the group. And at the same time, my co-founders with it, who stepped back now, he's advisor more so. He's trying to do other ventures, right? But at the time, he was in San Mateo. So he's going through the hero training program. And he met Juliana, who's the head of ventures, and some of them. And then I would have met, got referred to, a guy called Christian Munoz, who's the head of LATAM in Draper Startup House. Because people like, this Darnel guy seems to be really connected. He understands technology. He's from the Caribbean, which is very new. And I got an email saying, are you interested in a startup house location? So Sid and I were working on a fintech at the time, which got acquired now by a company from the Bahamas called Canopes. And yeah, it was literally just kind of organic, one thing leading to the other. So they meeting Tim in person during the pitch competition, meeting Juliana, I meeting Christian Munoz, and they online. So the URL and the IRL kind of collided to get us done. So it's really a kind of VC fairy tale, I guess, for the relationship. And here we are, literally.
And who are the startups that currently stay there, and how has this Draper Startup House helps them to progress?
So people who are literally idea stage, yes, tech advisory service, business advisory services, how to build a pitch deck, how to network, how to speak to your customers, and different things like that, you know. And from a other point of view of people who are already fundraising, to help you do follow-on rounds or introduce to potential investors who may not be ready for this particular stage or even that sort of thing. Yeah, so everything from brokerage services with companies who may even like right now, one of the goes right into green funding to reduce the carbon footprint. We are like a brokerage company for that. So we have many verticals that we help entrepreneurs and companies to bridge the gap between each other.
Right. And why do startups find that important to be together, you know, under one roof? Because I've built all my startups from a distance. I do believe in accountability and insights and in-person human touch, sort of. So much so that nowadays I'll be starting accountability groups, you know, in which we'll just log on one Google Sheet and get work done together without saying anything, you know, just having a live presence. I think that's a cool idea. And I have the founder of one such companies come on. But why is it important for them to be together under one roof physically as a startup?
That to me, that's an easy question, especially coming from the Caribbean, right? It's difficult in entrepreneurship. Even in more developed countries or more developed ecosystems like Silicon Valley, Atlanta, Detroit, in the UK with Antler and different places like that, there are great communities and it's still difficult. So the least you could do is have people in the trenches with you who understand, hey, Charles, like I'm having a hard day, I have a big investor meeting coming up, or I'm actually running out of my runway money. You know, only other founders will understand your pain. A lot of times your friends and family may call it, this is your little startup, Charles, you're working on this longevity startup, this little thing you're working on. Until it becomes a big thing, they minimize sometimes the effort. So you need community a lot as a founder. It's very hard. It's one of the hardest things you could do. It's easy to get a job.
Right. I fully get that. And do you think a business like that can scale? Because what's your business model behind the Draper House? I believe the startup give up equities or have to pay a monthly fee. Tell us a bit more about the business model behind it.
But honestly, the community aspect of helping the founders, it depends. Everything is like tailored depending on their situation. So I'll give you the most common examples. Sometimes we just provide technical client services in terms of helping them build a pitch deck and that sort of thing. So that's like a one-off paid service. Or if they recognize they may need us over time, right? To keep grooming them in a business advisory sense, they may then choose to give us some equity and or maybe keep us on retainer, depending on if it's not that crucial of a service they need. And let's just say it's visual designs and admin services, it'll be like a paid retainer monthly. But if it's like really long term, hey, I need you guys to grow my company with me, they may contact Draper as an equity role in the company. But the business model isn't really made to survive of trying to charge founders cash in that way. That's not really our model. We do tech consulting for state companies, for big private companies, whether it's corporate innovation and those sort of things, as well as broker services, right? So you can be an investor forum, connecting investors to founders. You take a percentage of the deal and that sort of thing. So we don't really try to make too much money really off the founders per se, more of the brokerage investor high-level services.
Before talking to you today, you were my first founder of Trinidad and Tobago. How's the startup community there? How's it developing and in what sector precisely?
Can you repeat that one more time? A bit of background noise by me here, sorry.
Yeah, the Trinidad and Tobago startup community, how's it doing right now? Is it growing, and in what sector do you feel that you guys could be competitive?
It's definitely growing. A couple people are seeing more things like the Drapers There's also a tech ecosystem called Tech Beach, right? A Caribbean ecosystem that was actually around before we got started. There's Whistle out of market. There's a couple of them around. And more, I guess the internet is removing barriers and making people connect more. And the more you see one person do it, you feel confident to do it as well. And we link up, we talk on LinkedIn, we have in-person meetups with different ecosystems in the Caribbean, and it's definitely growing. It's definitely promising. I think the government's also seeing that millennials and Gen Zs, they don't mind working, but they're more into passion for obvious reasons, such as maybe your parents are in a position now where they can afford to have them afford it, chase their passion, or some of them just are willing to go for broke, And I think the most competitive vertical we are seeing from the Caribbean, it'll be the fintech. That vertical, fintech.
Why do you feel that fintech is where you're competitive? Why is that prominent in Trinidad and Tobago?
Because a lot of the Caribbean diaspora and the UK, in the US, somewhere in Africa, etc., they all send money home. And Western Union and those things are kind of way too slow and outdated. I think in the past almost, right? Some of those companies actually invest in fintech companies right now to stay alive and to transition smoothly into the future. But yeah, that's a major reason, as well as a lot of people, believe it or not, in the Caribbean are still kind of underbanked. They may not have all the necessary documentations, right? A house deed or a utility bill and blah, blah, blah. And fintech kind of offers a way to not really circumvent, because you're still going to need to provide some KYC, your customer forms, but it makes it more palatable for users to want to engage and send money to friends and family more easily and do faster busy transactions on the weekend, for example, where the banks are closed. So we see a lot of strong startup companies come out in fintech.
And okay, so how could Trinidad and Tobago be competitive via fintech ecosystem like New York? How could that be?
We think you're working with the financial regulators, because that's the major stepping stone and I'll say barrier currently. We don't have the same open financial regulations as New York. Everything is too many forms and lengthy procedures for getting your electronic money license and those sort of things, right? And it turns a lot of founders off. So once you start working the regulators more, the public and private have to work more together, basically, which is happening. Negotiations are happening. I myself on the fintech Trinidad and Tobago Association board, I advocate for that a lot.
Right. What's the next step for you, like this year? Where do you want to take the startup house that you're running?
Honestly, I want to get more involved in Bahamas, Jamaica. We already have like foundations class today. We just want to get more and more deeper into the communities, but really, I'm going to drill down even harder in Trinidad. We are almost at, how do you say? We're almost at, I guess, critical mass and getting certain decisions overturned in the same fintech arena and different things. So when you get the success stories out there, we'll be able to say, hey, other island who's afraid of maybe growth or change, we've done it in Trinidad, we could come and help you do it in your island. You know what I mean? So that's really the Caribbean community that we're trying to build.
Interesting. Where can people find out more about you, Darnell?
You can find out about me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, but LinkedIn is my main like business kind of thing, which is where we even got connected, right? So you can find out more about me on LinkedIn for sure. And our website, dshcaricom.com, to see what we're up to.
Thank you so much. That was another FounderWisdomPodcast.com with Darnell Francois and Charles Cormier.